You've been there for about a month. You've gathered your soil samples, your rock samples. You've done your video of the Crimson Hills and shot your video of the view of Earth from that perspective and the surrounding stars. And you've had a few harrowing incidences, experiences, because what you've discovered is that there are Martians. Oh boy, and you are now ready to go home to Earth. When you discover that you need the help of the Martians to be released from the atmosphere of Mars. So you're standing there and you're saying, they don't speak your language. And you're saying the same things over and over and over again, trying to get them to help you out, as if saying it like that is going to magically have them understand what you're saying. Insane, huh? Well, that's what it's like with some parents when they're saying the same stuff over and over and making these requests of their kids over and over and over again. It's crazy making. It's insane. Welcome to the Save Your Breath show. I am Rowena Starling, and here we help parents eliminate the stress and aggravation of parenting, whether their child is 5 or 50. Today's show is about having integrity in your communications with your child, and specifically around this subject of having to say the same thing over and over and over again. I talk to parents. That's one of the big three. I tell you, it's crazy making. Many parents feel like they need to do that because because it would somehow magically, at some point, hopefully soon, cause the child to do what it is, or their adult offspring to do whatever it is that they're asking them to do, just magically at some point, please, without them having to say it again or ask them to do it again. But it's really deeper than that. I mean, if that was working, that they wouldn't have to nag, would they? So if they would just realize that their long-term health and happiness and the current and long-term health and happiness of their child or their offspring depends on them finding more sane ways to get their point across, to get the chore done, or whatever it is they're trying to badger this poor person into doing, then that would be the key for having some peace in their lives. And they'd accept the help that they need. Now, I have a family system that I've created that helps parents, and this is one of the areas that's addressed, helps them eliminate the need, or feeling the need anyway, to repeat themselves over and over. The nagging is what we call it. Now, some repetition is necessary. I mean, we understand that repetition is something like the mother of, learning or something. Yeah, it's a beautiful thing. But if you're repeating the same thing over and over again and without getting a different result, then that is, like we said, insane. And why are we? What are we saying? What are we saying it over and over again for? We're attempting to instill in the person or the child a value, or we're wanting to instill a habit that somehow will enhance their living experience, have them be safer now and going forward. It's life experiences that we're wanting to slowly have seep in on them. This is why we repeat these training lines, is what I call them, over and over again. For instance, my son, bless his pointed little head, when he was about, 8 or 9 years old, by this time I was just fed up with his toys. He had this habit of leaving his toys all over the floor, all over the house. Have you ever gotten up in the middle of the night in the dark to pee and stepped on one of those sharp little toy things? Have you? I mean, not a very pleasant experience, I tell you. And I had nagged him over and over again to pick his toys up before he goes to bed. Oh my goodness. And one day, I came home and there they were. After I don't know how many years of nagging about the same thing. Started when he, 3 years old, when they could spread their own stuff out. I grabbed a garbage bag, one of those big black garbage bags, and I started putting toys in there. Boy, Legos and all were going in there. I mean, and I'm talking about, it was quite a haul. This is one of those 33-gallon bags. I looked like Santa Claus as I swung it over my shoulder and took it out to the woodshed. Said, man, wait until he gets home. So the idea was that I would have him earn his toys back piece by piece once he could show that he could be responsible of putting them back, right? So he's dropped off by the after-school program. He comes in, and I waited, and I waited. Days went by. What is this? With the money I had spent on these toys, the least the boy could do was miss the toys out loud. Nothing. Months passed. I'm serious. Do you know, he never asked me what happened to his toys? Do you also know that I, from that day of picking up the toys, never had to ask him twice again to pick up his things? What did I learn? I learned that when I make a disciplinary move, a request of him, and have a promise of a result that would happen if he didn't do it, I needed to follow through the first time I said it, rather than saying it over and over. And I mean, I literally stressed myself out. The kid was fine, right? So that was a very important point for me to learn. So why do we cause this grief on ourselves? Why do we say the same things over and over and over again? Well, it has to do with, actually what I wanted him, just in that particular instance, I wanted him to be neat. I was attempting to have him learn to be neat, and that leads to cleanliness and that whole thing. And this was a value, this neatness was a value that would carry over for society and in his private life and for his health. So from just from a personal perspective, for his brain, then being neat allows the brain to start to organize, get you together, helps to clear clutter from the brain. The idea is to be neat. You're training on the outside. There's something happening here in the head, in the brain, that is training the child to unclutter and be organized and clean with their thoughts. So from a societal standpoint, this works for him because now at school, when he's attempting to learn a lesson, it's easier on the teacher. Teacher's part of society. He's learning his lesson easier because his brain is practicing being uncluttered, so he's learning to clear stuff out as he goes. And then also further along down the line, from a societal point of view, if he should find a significant other, he'd be a person that would be easier to live with. A neat person, or a semi-neat anyway. So from a society, these things reverberate and, apply to various different areas of our lives. From a health standpoint, well, look, saving the bottoms of my feet, I thought that would be a healthy thing to do. Plus, I thought that it would save the bottoms of, pain from the bottoms of his feet. I mean, just in the immediate instance. But, what is up with that? Kids leave the stuff laying around all over the place. Don't they step on, aren't their feet more tender? The bottoms of their feet more tender than ours? Are they able to somehow finesse their ways psychologically through a minefield of toys without hurting themselves? I don't know how they do that. Somebody will have to explain that to me. Anyway, so from a health standpoint, if you're neat and orderly, there are a few injuries, there are a few things to trip over, and then that kind of reverberates out into the rest of your life, and you have a neat and orderly way about perhaps grooming yourself. And then grooming yourself is important for health for, obvious reasons, the looks and also the bacteria aspect of things, neat, clean. It starts somewhere. So this was the beginning for him in learning to do neatness. Now, why else do we nag the kids over and over again? Well, one of the reasons is that we are trying to avoid hitting them, right? So, gosh, we've just made this decision that we will not hit them. We will just nag them to death. So, well, first of all, let's just address this whole thing about hitting. It's corporal punishment. It's a good thing that we do that. We avoid the hitting, because corporal punishment, also known as spanking or getting a whooping, the derivative word there is whipping. This is a sign that you don't have a clear respect for your intelligence. If you find it necessary to strike another person or an animal, for that matter, this is not honoring who we are. We want to preempt a certain amount of danger. So as long as we're preempting a certain amount of danger, please don't become the danger yourself. Anyway, when we threaten and threaten and threaten, I mean, it gets out of hand. You have no integrity. Integrity in what you're communicating. This is what I'm talking about. The parent brain is larger. We've had more time here on the planet. We've had more time to figure out how to be in joy and to bring joy to difficult situations. That's the practice. Because when you're engaged in all of this nagging and threatening and not following through and threatening some more, you lose integrity. If you should reduce yourself to corporal punishment, now you're starting to cause some serious resentment on a whole nother level, and that can lead eventually to hate. So at the core, of course, your child will always love you, but then what you're getting back is a strong feeling of resentment and or hate. They don't respect you when there's no integrity. When there's no integrity, it does shine out to the rest of everything else that you're doing. If you wonder why certain people don't respect you outside of the home, you may want to look at what's going on and how you present yourself and how you stand with your word, the strength that you stand in with your word. So how do you stop feeling the need to do all this nagging? Because you see, when you're not telling the truth, one of the reasons that you lose this respect is because you have threat after threat, which is equal to lie after lie after lie, which leads to the disrespect. And then you wonder why no one respects you. Write this down. Well, actually, make a note of this. If you're driving, I don't want you writing anything down. No texting. Repetition requires review. In the context of the family system that I help people develop for themselves, when we're addressing this particular issue, there are a few steps that I will share with you today to help you understand a way to get around this and make your life easier, to have more finesse in what you're doing, right? Okay, so step one, stop in the moment and breathe. Relax. Center yourself. Save your breath. Step two, review the instruction. What was the instruction? Review it and see if it was age appropriate. Was it clear? Were they distracted? And most of all, what was your attitude in delivering this instruction? That 93% of nonverbal communicated. Right? That was a step two. Step three, after finding the whole from step two, adjust the communication accordingly. So you may end up saying it the same way or saying it a different way, but you reissue the instruction. And then step four, you have your offspring repeat what it is that you ask of them. Repeat it back to you and have them tell you why it's important that they do it. This is a very important exercise. Communication may ensue. Conversation is what we're after. Your integrity shines through in the conversation. The conversation is what builds the moment-to-moment trust and faith in your honesty, where you're coming from in your communications with your child. When you are making a point of having this communication and getting into the process of listening to them to see what's going on with them and answer to those questions that process we just did, it tells the child that you're in integrity, that you're strong, and it also tells them that they matter, that you're bothering to even stop and have this conversation with them, that they're important and they are worthy. It's inspiring, and then they want to do what you're asking of them. See, because you're right there with them, making sure that they understand what's going on in a loving way. I tell you, patience is its own reward. What ended up being the thing for me was quiet mind. Make a note of this. Quiet mind, easy flow. Of stopping in the moment to check in and check ourselves and make sure we're in a good place. Then we're killing stress instead of it killing us. Because before it kills us, it can make us very sick, illness, and then ugly. I don't know, there's some of us women who would rather be, beautiful and not good rather than be ugly. Feel good and be ugly. I mean, I might be one of those. Anyway, so this constant repetition that we're doing is tensing us up and slowly building this pressure on the brain, this stress, right? So do you want to offset the uglies at the pass? Let me tell you about Hannah. Hannah, I met her a couple of years ago. She, at the time, was 55 years old, divorced, 2 kids. Well, they're not kids, they're adults now. The son is 28. The daughter is about 25, 26 years old. And she looked tired, haggard, much older than she really was. She was successful in her work, and she wanted to consider what would happen at retirement, but she was disheartened. She had lost the joie de vivre, the joy for life. Her adult kids were making her crazy, you know. So she and I started to make some progress. The sad part is that now, her kids being adults, she longs for having that loving connection with her kids, that the affection that she sees other people have with their kids. She wants that for herself, and she worries that she will die, that she'll be alone and lonely without that connection. So we've made some serious progress. We found that she had to work out some anger that she had with her parents, with her father in particular. Oh yeah, you know, we pass these things down to each other. This is why we need to stop it here. The yelling has stopped, the yelling matches that they had going on for a couple of decades. All that ugliness that built up on her over a couple of decades in that home, raising the children, due to the lack of integrity that they had going on, that ugliness is starting to subside in the relationships, and she actually is getting her good looks back. She looks way better now than she did when I first met her. I mean, the kids are starting to come around. They have a ways to go. After all, they have to process through 2 decades of being in that environment. And they have their own special circumstances now. And they're comparatively young, so they're not feeling the need or want to engage in what it would take for them to be relieved from their pain in the situation. They're not fully recognizing it at this point. I think we have to get them sober first. So, if you're having trouble connecting and wading through everything that it takes for you now to engage in patience and pull your joy back up, please do allow me to serve you. Go to the website at saveyourbreath101.com/parenting-assessment. Do the assessment and allow me to serve you. This is a $250 value that I'm offering for free for a limited time only at this point, so that we can get you somewhere very, very close to where it is you want to be. So now what happens here if you decide that you like it the way it is? Nagging is not so bad. I'm used to doing it. I'm comfortable in my pain. Thank you very much. Well, as you know, it's tiring, it's stressful, it's detrimental to your health, and it's unnecessary. It's unnecessary because they do hear you. They just don't care for what you have to say or how you're saying it. Save your breath. So what do you choose? If you choose to continue, then you get to have more crazy-making behavior. You get to harvest a significant amount of resentment, possibly hatred down the line. That's due to talking at your children or your progeny rather than with them. You get to miss your opportunity to have your input in expanding their minds, especially into the mindset that you would like to have them have about life. To learn your shortcuts and tidbits that we heroes carry around with us. Do you understand that we are not the be-all and end-all of all conscious wisdom here on the planet? You get to lose, then, the beauty lesson that they are here to teach you. Oh, you're learning anyway. You're learning a lesson, but now, what lesson are you learning? I think we have a smorgasbord of options Which one are you learning right now? Do you understand that our children bring the future right into our homes? They are the cosmic wisdom of consciousness incarnate, as are we. We are here to respect each other and act accordingly. So do you find that ease and finesse and how you're engaging with your kids is just out of the question? Let's have a conversation. Like the Martian story I was telling you about at the beginning of the episode, your children and other people are just they're in their own world. Children especially are fresh and new on the planet. They are here just kind of popped in from heaven. They are learning our language. We are the Martians to them. Well, I thank you for listening and being here with me here on the Save Your Breath show, and I look forward to your return.